And I was part of that first cohort of other types involved in that. And it was great because we got to really talk about what the connection between the support units that exist on campus. Namely, in my situation, it's instructional support, and then a lot of the librarian support that they're so versed at. So we came up with this graphic, and Lily and I have thought about it, talked about it, and looked at it a few times. And a lot of it was based on relationships that already existed at UCF with the libraries. And we haven't quite edited it or modified it yet from its original state, but I have shared it around the country and such. So I'm curious if any others are floating around, and I would encourage you to make your own version of what is, whether, no matter who it is, whether it's instructional library or what other folks might be involved, kind of the relationship between you two. Lily, I'd like to pass it to you for a second to talk about how you see this kind of working its way through at UCF.
Sure. I would like to emphasize just the collaborative nature of this and how, if you don't already work with librarians, that your faculty and staff on the instructional support side it would work out wonderfully if you reach out to your librarians, because there are so many overlaps in what you do for the instructors and teaching faculty and research faculty even around your institution. So we also use this graphic to kind of show those faculty that, hey, we collaborate, and then we start to go into at what points in time would you reach out to a librarian or perhaps an instructional designer when faculty are interested in kind of going into the realm of helping their courses become more affordable for their students with their course material selection.
Thanks, Lily. That's actually a really good transition to the next slide, because there's a choice on it. So here's another, again, artifact we'd like to share. Again, you can utilize the QR code up in the top left here, which will give you access to the flowchart and SVG and PDF formats. And so this here is just further, I guess, explanation for faculty members in particular, but anybody really, on, okay, if we have a goal to create or to encounter or utilize affordable materials or open educational materials, how do you go through that process, and what your thought process might be? And so this graphic, again, was created a little bit more broadly for the AIM initiative at UCF, which includes inclusive access programs and affordability accounts and other such. But as Lily and I began talking more, we landed on a sort of, we edited a version of that more robust one and made something that is a little more clean and simplified. I don't know, Lily, if you had any thoughts on this as well.
Sure. So when we kind of use this with the faculty who are thinking about their course goals, we present it to them in such a way that they're thinking about maybe the textbooks that they're using, or they're thinking about their quizzes and test banks, those sorts of things. So as they think about the support and the course materials in those classes, we kind of guide them through, is any area lacking? Do they need something? Or is there such a high cost for their students now that this may inspire them to look for alternative materials? So you kind of see in the green area where it asks, are course goals being met with existing materials? And then if they're not, which area is lacking, or if cost is a concern. And kind of either way, it leads the faculty to, well, if cost is a concern, let's think about those zero cost pathways. And those can be either open educational resources or perhaps materials through the library. And depending on how your institution functions, the way we function here at UCF, if they're thinking about creating or adapting OER, then that often goes more towards the instructional designer's side of support with collaboration from the library. And if they're thinking about perhaps a library ebook, then that would be routed to me or to the subject librarians. In other institutions, it may be an OER librarian or an e-resources librarian, but just kind of contextualizing it for the faculty of, well, depending on what their decisions are, who would they reach out to? What kind of support would they get along the way?
Great, thanks, Lily. Yeah, why don't you just maybe keep going and unpack a little bit about what's happening over in the library?
Sure. So, for those of you who may be a little less familiar with what the affordable course materials can look like from the library, I did want to talk a little bit about what some libraries are doing, and we're also doing it here at UCF. So the types of materials the library has that can fully replace a textbook in a course would be those eBooks. Sometimes we call them e-textbooks. And what a librarian would do is they would look for an ebook that provides the right type of license so that the whole class can access it at once. And then preferably, it would also be an ebook where the student could download a PDF and keep that PDF in perpetuity. So those are the two main things we look for ebooks that can match textbooks for courses. Very often, what I do in my work is I look at the list of textbooks that have been adopted for courses, and then I look at all the ebooks we either have already in the library or could get, and I find a lot of matches. So that can be a really easy and quick way to increase affordability in courses at an institution. I also wanted to point out that many of you may be familiar with course reserves. That's a common feature of many libraries. Those can be digital, or those can be physical items held at a physical library that students can check out for a brief period of time. So a textbook on course reserve can definitely help a student in a pinch, as long as that reserve item, it happens to be available at that time that the student is looking for it. So although this is textbook support, it does not act as a full textbook replacement. And then I also just wanted to touch on again some more ideas on how you can collaborate with your libraries and librarians and library staff. The instructors need to know about these options. So you may collaborate on how to give that information to instructors and faculty and professors. Maybe that's through a workshop, through an online course, through emails going out to them. And then maybe on the more exciting aspect, maybe you'll collaborate on running events or giving awards to those that are choosing more affordable options. And then, of course, there's going back to the processes and automation of all these efforts. Very often, librarians really want to automate something where maybe we're trying to check our library catalog against a big spreadsheet or something, and we don't necessarily have the tools at the ready, but your team may have a programmer or something who could jump in and help with something like that. So it's kind of thinking outside the box, thinking about what skill sets your teams have and what resources the library has to help our students. One example here at the UCF library is that we have built the e-textbook portal. So basically, I have found about 470 eBooks in our library catalog that directly match those textbooks that faculty have adopted for courses. So I created a search interface very similar to what the bookstore has, so that students are more familiar with looking things up by course number, book title, etc. And then it's a real quick button, takes them directly to the ebook. I do have some instructions on how to use some of the different platforms to help get students connected with those free course materials.
Yeah, and just to throw it out there, because I know a lot of Florida institutions are on the call, course numbers are shared, right, across all of our institutions. So even though this is a UCF, lives on the UCF website, you could likely see some of the materials that we're using that could be available or even in your libraries. So for those
Right,
courses.
right. Good point, Jim. Yeah, that could definitely be an idea for you, because those ebooks in the e-textbook portal could still be available for purchase. And just as a quick snapshot, over 50 departments are represented in the e-textbook portal that we have now. So it's kind of a really nice way to kind of fill in the gap, especially if there are no open educational resources for a certain topic yet, and the faculty don't have time to develop new OER, something like that. So it really does suit a good purpose as we try to target those affordable courses.
Thanks, Lily. That's great, and all your work is so robust and just mind blowing. I know a lot of time and effort goes into that. So switching over or kind of like bridging over into the open educational resources side, the Center for Distributed Learning maintains a website and a public kind of presence around the topic. It's highly collaborative though. And again, as that second paragraph states, it couldn't be successful without all, including the library, including students, including our faculty center, just the list goes on and on in terms of people who contribute to the work. It's not in a vacuum at all. And I think that's something I'm extremely proud of and I continue to work on. And I think if you have an initiative like an open education initiative or affordability initiative, I would encourage you to include those, even if they don't know they want to be included, such as students. A lot of people don't think about it, but it's been a great help to have their voice represented, but also their voice resounding at tabling at events, talking in their classrooms and just chit-chatting and such. And it creates activity around our media channels, including student newspapers and stuff like that. So, all right. This is our website. Again, you can use the QR code to kind of check it out in an interactive mode. There you'll find basically it's like a home base. I don't have multiple pages quite yet for OER at the university, but here you'll find, as you see the button there, an intro to open education. It's kind of a short course that was adapted from with the help of the team. Then if you keep scrolling down and look down, you'll see some of the student activity and a recent student resolution that was passed with student government and a lot of our registered student organizations working together to kind of make OER a priority. I just learned this morning too that there's some activity around students wanting to write about conversations happening at the Board of Trustees. I think Lily, you know about that because it came directed through your channel. So that great, more and more people are keen and wanting to know more about this. And it's high level conversations are occurring, which are really great for the university and for the world. We also maintain a Pressbooks site. I don't know if all of your institutions do have Pressbooks at your institution, if you know if they do or don't, but it's essentially an authoring platform. We use it kind of very much for academic and educational publishing, not on the scholarly side too much. And again, there's a QR code there if you want to take a look. We have an open resource library that's really visited. Our homepage and that is more for the public facing part. So as you may know, if you have Pressbooks at your institution, you can easily clone any of these books. Oftentimes you'll see a download button there. You can also download like docx format, PDF formats and share them or read them offline or even just edit them from there. So I would encourage you to go look there or just go look at our activity. We're going to actually look at the directory, which is not a pitch for Pressbooks per se. There are other platforms out there as well, but it's what we use and kind of how we channel a lot of our efforts with creation and dissemination. All right, so the activity. I would highly encourage you to actually utilize this QR code. I can, because this is an activity for all of us to kind of do, so you can kind of see the power of collaborating with a website that's designed for sharing and for easy access to information. And if you want, I could, do you all want me to do this? Let's have a quick vote. How many of you want me to do this on a phone so you can see what I do in your phone, or do you want me to do this on a computer so you have a bigger screen? Let's vote 1 for me doing it on a phone, doing the search query on the phone, or 2 for me doing it on the computer so we have a big screen. Could you guys put your things in the chat? And I will do whatever. Okay, it looks like resounding 2 here. Okay, fair enough. I will do it on the screen. I would encourage you. Are you able to see that? Or are you still seeing the slides only?
We can see it.
We can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so on a phone, it's slightly more vertical, but it stacks well. So if you did access it on the phone, same buttons, the same interface, it's just stacked instead of wide. I can make this slightly more wide, slightly wider, excuse me. And as you can see, this is a directory with around 5,000 resources on it. From 144 different networks. UCF has one of those networks. There are more networks out there that don't share their materials here, or I'm sure, and there are a lot of other repositories and places to look for open educational resources, including OpenStax, LibreText, etc. But for today's purpose, I'd like to bring us to an activity here on how, if you are engaging with faculty or anyone around open education, and you want to provide them with as you can see on this right side, to share this query, a nice, easy link to a very specific query, I would encourage you to play around with the tool. So today I'm just going to do a simple keyword or 2 words. It's going to do student success. And then I will take requests from the audience if we have time. I need to keep an eye on that. But I look like we're okay so far. So, all right. First, I'm just going to search student success, and indiscriminately, right? This is all types of licenses. Any title or content that has the word student and success in it. Now, if I'm like, well, that gave me 164 books, I don't really feel like looking at that many. Maybe I can make my thing a little bit bigger here and have 50 books on a page. But I'm like, well, let me try to narrow that down. So what I can do, I can use like quotation marks, right, to make it this word specifically, right, has to be there. So now, okay, that brought me down to 111. Well, let me see, if as I scroll down, I'm looking at the different license types, as you can see here. Oh, I see one that's all rights reserved, which means I won't even be able to use that. So, well, let me try to limit it to something that I know I can use, right, or adapt. So let's go ahead and filter down by license. We'll do CC BY, which is attribution only. We'll do a very famous sort of like educational license here with a non-commercial share alike. And then I'll do one just share alike. Okay, so now we've reduced our filter down a little bit more to 91. And then I'll be like, well, I don't want just a book, right? I want something that's going to have some interactivity in it because Pressbooks allows for interactive exercises. So I want at least 5 activities in the book that I choose. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, we're down to 18 books. And actually, one of the books published at UCF is here from a subject librarian, John Venasek, and Barry Maurer, who's in the English faculty. So let's say I'm interested in this book, or I'm just interested in seeing books like this from around the networks that are related to student success. Okay, and they all give you the number of activities and kind of if it's the root book or a clone. All right, so if you want to look at the activities, you can just then, if you're curious, right, you find a book, you like it, you want to share this query, you're thinking about sharing this query with somebody, but you're not sure if the activities are good or bad or quality or just put together in a sort of not such a great way, you can come here and just kind of take a look and say, okay, I like that. Or you can look for specific types. These are all question sets in this one. You can just show them individually and take a look and be like, okay, I like the way this functions. This has multiple questions. It has some like kind of drop. Okay, great. All right. So you might be like, all right, I want to use that. If you want to just use the one, you can go ahead and just click reuse, download it, and upload it into an H5P of your, like whether you have H5P on your Canvas network or somewhere else, or you can just grab the embed code, which is, you can and then just embed it in a Canvas page or something. So it works. You could just grab it and it'll be, as long as the link exists, that will exist. Or you can, if you reuse, you can actually clone it and you have your own file that exists, right? It's like, okay, I like that. Pretty good. And I want to share this with somebody, right? I want to share this with, I don't know, a group of faculty or someone in my unit, and go ahead and copy it. And then it'll give that specific query with all of those filters in it. So when I click it again, you see how it all kind of goes through. So they spent a lot of time in over the past couple of years developing this. And I feel like this is one of the better filterable and easily shareable repositories out there. Again, I mentioned LibreText, and I know some of you may not have Pressbooks at your institutions. So you may want something a little more robust that has more ancillary materials or something like that. If you've ever been here, you can see, and again, not to knock this site over the other, they're very different and have different purposes. But as you can see, you can pop in and look at bookshelves and it's all sort of there, but you'd have to dig in and kind of get into, okay, organic chemistry now and go down this sort of nested journey. And when you want to share, you'd be able to share a little more broadly. So again, this is helpful and good. But if you operate a network for Pressbooks, or even if you're developing something of your own and have a repository, I would encourage some of these. I like these features, and I think they're very well, they're very tasteful and effective. So I'd encourage you to take a look here next time you're looking for OER. And that's about it for that. On the activity, I did want to, how are we doing on time? I don't have much time. I will just take.
You're doing fine, Jim.
I'm doing
if
okay.
You wanted to take any questions about the Pressbooks directory search, or maybe any suggested
or we are
themes?
searching. Yeah, maybe I would. Maybe I will. If anyone has one, would just to at least allow for a little bit of dialogue. Are there any search terms that you're interested in, or are there any questions about searching for OER, whether it's in the Pressbooks directory, Google, LibreText, wherever you might search for it. And I'd love to talk maybe a little bit of strategy if anyone is interested. Can't see this yet. I can unmute. Okay. Yeah, sure. You can unmute if that's okay with the TOPkit folks, and or you can type it in the chat. Good point. Is there a key, like what is CC by? It's a very good point. I believe this is not actionable either. So it's a good note. You would probably have to go ahead and utilize, yeah, a site like the Creative Commons site to really see. But I'm going to give that as feedback to them because I believe these little icons here should either be clickable or somewhere in here should allow me to see what the license means. Thank you for that question. How about
Yeah, I put it in the chat, the link to the Creative Commons licenses that kind of goes over what each one means, and it should have the same imagery, the same icon on there that should match.
Thanks, Ellen. Meredith asked a question about post-secondary ESL learners, which are near and dear to my heart as I used to teach them at UCF prior to becoming an instructional designer. I'm curious though, how you mean. So strategies to help, like pedagogical strategies, or are we speaking about open educational resources specifically? Sure. Yeah, well, let's, just for fun, I haven't ever put this search term in there. Let's see, oops, I gotta clear my other filters. Clear off all my filters. There is a lot of work in languages and literature in the open world. And so I just put in ESL because I was curious. I didn't even put in the keywords. And it looks like we have 14 books that come off immediately around, looks like ESL composition, mostly composition. It's all Greek to me, authentic readings, 51 bite-sized lessons on verbs. So very cool stuff. I mean, here's one with a lot of H5P activities. So out of curiosity, but interesting. I want to get my students some more engagement with ESL, and then boom, okay, you find some interesting sort of materials here that can be usable. Thanks, that's really interesting. I've never searched for ESL, so that's really fun. I mean, obviously Google is very powerful too. I would encourage all of you to start there maybe, right? I mean, you go to Google, type in your keywords and put OER, and you'll get more than enough information there, and a lot of libguides from the library. Again, a way that the library helped us so much is they're, at least in my opinion, very organized and about the way that they index. And so I'm not sure, Lily, what you think of this as a librarian, this site. For me, I'm like, oh, this is great. But librarians may be like, well, this is so not great because we do way better indices elsewhere. But
no, this is definitely one of my favorite platforms to search for OER in because it's so clean. It has functional facets. It's really nice. Kind of some of the other search interfaces that other people may be familiar with, like OER Commons or the Mason OER Meta Finder. Those are really in-depth tools, but very often OER may not be tagged correctly in there. So some of the search functions in those platforms may not be as nice as I think they are here on the Pressbooks directory.
Yeah, one of the main members of the community, the Pressbooks community, Steel Wagstaff, is is a kind of a librarian at heart, maybe even not in this role particularly, but they work really well with that and closely with libraries on this tool. So great. Lily, I'm going to give you a little time to get into yours, and Sean is familiar with H5P. That's great. That could be a whole other session. So I didn't mean to open a can of worms with all the different features that may exist within a Pressbook, but I'll encourage you to explore some open source tools. Again, Pressbooks can be a hosted service, but it can also be something if you have a development team that's the source code is open on GitHub. You guys can stand up your own version of Pressbooks, and it's an open source project that's maintained regularly. Same with H5P, a very heavily invested open source project out of Europe, Northern Europe, and they're doing great work in the open space. They have a software as a service option as well, right? So both companies are at their core open projects, H5P and Pressbooks, but they also provide services around their open core if in need. So, well, thanks again. I'm going to actually stop sharing to give this over to Lily for her activity.
Thank you, Jim.
Mhm.
All right. So as I start to get everything up for the Chat GPT activity, because we're trying to stick to that theme and recurring topic, I'm going to put a link to an article that I found very helpful in thinking about Chat GPT and how it can help support both OER, open education, as well as creating ancillary materials. So let me post that link in the chat first, and then I'll share my screen. Okay, so that article was written by David Wiley about AI, instructional design, and OER, which I found to be really fascinating. Kudos to Rebecca McNulty for sending that to me. Now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to kind of do a quick activity using Chat GPT and talk about that a little bit.
While she's pulling it up, I want to mention that this other machine and natural language processing collaboration that we're talking about here is really interesting as it relates to OER development, right? One of the faculty members' pain points, right, with time is always, I don't have ancillaries. I can't create question sets. Well, I think Lily's going to give you a little insight into how you might utilize it for that. And I already have with some STEM faculty on our campus. So it's an interesting use case. And yeah, I look forward to hearing what you say then.
Definitely. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so everyone should see my screen, which includes Chat GPT and a PDF open. Do you see both of those? Good. All right. So very often what happens when faculty try to transition over to either a library ebook or perhaps an OER that does not come with a test bank, they find that to be a barrier because they would really like those robust resources that come with perhaps a traditional textbook package or a course access code, something like that, that does come with those test banks and so on and so forth. Well, I've been involved in many of the discussions on Reddit, kind of about what are all the capabilities of Chat GPT? What are different uses for it? And there are people, of course, who are using it to write their own essays for them, which is not what we're talking about or supporting, but there are those who are using it to help them save time. And one of those use cases would be to help them create questions for a test bank. And one of the ways you can do that would be by actually directly asking ChatGPT, hey, could you create a question about blank for me? And I'm gonna do that a little bit later, but what I'm going to start with is I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create some quiz questions based on some text. So here is a chapter I downloaded from a library ebook, which is used as a textbook here at UCF. So I'm just gonna copy this one page from this book, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create 2 quiz questions based on the following text, and I'm just going to paste it in there. And now, crossing fingers, ChatGPT is fully functional right now. It will start to give me some answers. So it starts off with 1 question. I asked it to make 2. So it's saying, what is anatomy and how did it traditionally involve the study of the body? And it gives me an answer. And then it looks like the second question, what are the 3 subsystems of the anatomy used for speech production, and what were they originally designed for? And I've asked ChatGPT to do this exact thing for the same amount of content, the same chapter, and it has given me different questions every time. So what you would do at this point, hopefully you would be a subject matter expert, or you would have one on hand to make sure that these questions are accurate. But we don't have to stop here. And you don't have to be as limited with 2 questions, but I'm just kind of trying to keep it a little bit more manageable for this exercise. I want it to alter these questions. So I'm kind of doing these prompts in a step-by-step method when you could include all of these requests all in one, but I'm going step by step. So we have 2 questions. I would like those to become multiple choice questions. So what I'm going to say is, revise the questions to have 4 multiple choice answers. And it stays with the same question. And now it gives you 4 multiple choice answers. And we see right here, it's actually telling me what the answer is as well. And I know that if this is your subject area, or if you teach in anything related to this, you could come up with these questions, right? But it's kind of that aspect of, do you really have time and the creative energy to come up with several different answer choices, to come up with so many different questions? And this can kind of expedite this process if you need to do it. So what you would do is you would double check, is the correct answer really correct? You may alter these questions a little bit. You may alter the answer choices a little bit, but this is a really nice time-saving feature for this. Now, of course, the downside is that students may then use ChatGPT to try to find the answer, but because ChatGPT has been kind of taught on practically the whole internet, even if you don't use ChatGPT to come up with test questions, it's probably going to help students find the answer anyway. So kind of that concern of, well, if I make test questions in ChatGPT, will ChatGPT know the answers even more effectively? And I think the answer to that is ChatGPT will probably be able to figure out the answer whether you came up with the question on your own or not. So that's another whole topic and another whole session on pedagogical approaches and strategies and so on how to deal with AI being a really large presence in our lives now. So that was just a really quick kind of picture on some ways you can use ChatGPT to try to save you time. I have also seen people who have used ChatGPT to write entire OERs. And that is an interesting approach too. So I think a lot of our thought processes and our how we think about using a large language model or a ChatGPT like AI is to think about, how do we make the best prompts? What is capable and how can it help me save time while doing everything ethically and legally all at once? I'm going to turn it back over
Thanks.
to Jim.
That's okay. I'll share again. And kind of, there's not another slide aside from the final slide. So we'd like to thank you all for bearing with us as we navigate through the space, the time and space, as we look collectively, hopefully, right, as a community at trying to address some of the challenges that exist for the faculty, students and faculty and staff that we work with on a daily basis, in particular the time and money. We'd like to open it up for questions if we have. These are our respective web pages for Lily and I. We'd like to also open it up for questions as we have a few minutes.
I see one question in the chat. So the article I posted earlier really helps kind of answer that. And it's a really interesting topic right now, which is still in development. But because ChatGPT is the output of that is not created by a human, it cannot be copyrighted. So kind of the law and cases that are being used about this sort of topic is kind of being based on when animals like elephants would create art, and you can't copyright that. So because it's not created by a human. So in other words, basically whatever is created by ChatGPT in one way or another sort of goes into the public domain.
As it goes into the public domain, exactly, because it's computer generated, no creative action, human action involved. I believe we have a question from Aaron.
Yes, my question has to do with ChatGPT because it's being integrated into the Bing search engine, as well as the Microsoft Windows operating system with Windows 11. How are we going to handle those types of inquiries? Because it's going to be more open forum compared to ChatGPT, the sandbox of what you just demonstrated.
Yeah, I mean, I could take a crack at it first, kind of in just terms of, I think that we're all really surprised and excited and nervous and have mixed emotions about all of these things happening. I mean, obviously, businesses are going to eat this up as an opportunity to generate more traffic, revenue, whatever it might be, right? Ambivalence. But at the same time, the way I'm looking at it, at least, is that it's just like me pulling the phone out of my pocket or any other convenience that I have. It's just a matter of getting used to it, and I'm not to downplay and ignore it, but at the same time, just I kind of just go on with my life as though it's just another collaborator out there in the world, and just something we got to get used to, and just a very interesting friend,
And
you know.
and I've kind of thought about it. I mean, spell checkers are integrated in so many of these places too, right?
Yeah.
But as you can see, some people effectively use spell checkers and some people don't. So ultimately, it'll come down to how are we leaning into this technology? How are we teaching students and peers and everyone how to use it effectively, and use it in your own pedagogy as well. I think it'll be really interesting to see as this develops and becomes more widespread.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do believe it'll be so pervasive that we won't know. I already don't even notice it or pay attention to it anymore because it's just so, seems like just normal. I wouldn't expect you not to have thought or used it or looked at it or somehow had it integrated into your daily operation on a search engine or wherever it might end up. Right at the end of the day, it's just right now I think it's just a positioning of large cap companies, mega companies fighting over, do I try to make one better? Do I leverage this? What are the implications of that? And I think we'll see a bit of a war there, but I don't know how long it'll last. But I do think it will be quick. The quickest will be quickest to the gun, the quickest to the, to the blocks will be the one kind of on the cutting edge. And as you said, I wasn't even aware. I'm a Mac user, so maybe that's why, but I wasn't even aware of the Windows.
I use
integration.
both. I use both. So, and I saw Windows. It's also being baked into the Windows operating system too.
Yeah. Interesting. Any other last 30-second questions, maybe? I'm really happy that you invited us, Charlotte and team. Thank you, and for all of you who came. I have an open door, figuratively open door policy. I mean, please reach out anytime. Can I show the slides of the QR code again? Yes. In fact, I'm going to give you, I'm going to share my screen one more time and just give you the front slide, which is the one with the QR code to the actual slides. And so if you were to, if you hover your phone over that QR code at the bottom, you'll have access to the slides, which has all the access to the QR codes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. And I think the big thing here is just there's so many implications for this, just affordable materials and making your own with something like ChatGPT. It opens a lot. It's opening such a can of worms, and it's like, it's kind of more like Pandora's box. Honestly, it's not less a can of worms and more like Pandora's box because it's so infinite. But thank you so much.